English, your confidence disappears before your first word even arrives. The problem is not that you don't know enough English. The problem is that you've been taught to collect knowledge instead of creating conversations. You've filled notebooks with grammar rules, memorized thousands of vocabulary words, and watched endless lessons, believing that one more chapter, one more book, or one more course would finally make you fluent. Most people believe they are not fluent in English because they don't know enough words. They think they need another grammar book, another vocabulary list, another online course, or another certificate before they are finally ready to speak. But the truth is, the biggest obstacle is rarely a lack of knowledge. It is the habit of collecting information without ever putting it into action. Imagine someone who spends years reading books about driving, but never sits behind the steering wheel. No matter how many rules they memorize, they will never become a driver until they actually start driving. English works exactly the same way. It is not a subject that lives inside a notebook. It is a living skill that grows only when it is used. Many learners have already learned enough English to hold simple conversations. They know greetings, common expressions, basic sentence structures, and hundreds of useful words. Yet when the opportunity to speak arrives, they become silent. They search for perfect grammar, worry about pronunciation, and fear that others will laugh at their mistakes. By the time they have built the perfect sentence in their mind, the conversation has already moved on. This cycle repeats again and again until they begin believing that they are simply not good at English. In reality, the problem is not their ability. The problem is their mindset. They keep preparing for a race they never enter. Think about how children learn their first language. They don't wait until they know every grammar rule. They don't study verb tenses before saying their first sentence. They speak with broken words, incomplete sentences, and countless mistakes. They repeat the same words every day until those words become natural. Nobody expects perfection from a child because everyone understands that mistakes are part of learning. Somewhere along the journey of adulthood, we forget this lesson. We begin believing that making mistakes is embarrassing instead of realizing that mistakes are evidence of progress. Every sentence you already know has value. If you know how to introduce yourself, then introduce yourself every day. If you know how to ask simple questions, ask them whenever you can. If you know 50 useful words, create hundreds of different sentences with those same words. Fluency is not about knowing 10,000 words. It is about using the words you already know quickly, naturally, and confidently. A person who confidently uses 500 words every day will communicate far better than someone who has memorized 5,000 words but never speaks. There is also a dangerous illusion that learning more automatically leads to speaking better. It doesn't. Information stored in your memory is only potential. It becomes a skill only when it is practiced repeatedly. Think about athletes. They don't become champions by reading about fitness. Musicians don't become performers by studying music theory alone. They spend hours practicing the same movements until those movements become automatic. Speaking English follows the same principle. Your mouth must practice just as much as your mind. Instead of asking yourself, what new lesson should I study today? Ask yourself, how can I use what I already know today? Describe your breakfast in English. Talk about your daily routine while walking. Explain what you see outside your window. Tell a story about your childhood using simple sentences. Record your voice and listen to it. Speak to yourself while cooking, cleaning, or traveling. These small moments transform passive knowledge into active communication. Every conversation with yourself strengthens the connection between your thoughts and your voice. Many people underestimate the power of repetition. They think repeating simple sentences is boring because they have already learned them. But repetition is exactly what builds confidence. Every professional athlete repeats basic drills. Every successful musician practices scales. Every skilled public speaker rehearses their speech again and again. Repetition is not a sign that you are weak. It is the process that makes ordinary actions become effortless. The more you repeat useful English phrases, the less you will need to translate them from your native language. Another reason people remain stuck is because they confuse studying with achievement. Finishing another textbook feels productive. Completing another grammar exercise feels satisfying. Watching another educational video creates the illusion of progress. But none of these activities guarantee that you can actually communicate with another human being. The real measure of improvement is not how many lessons you complete. It is how many conversations you create. It is how comfortably you express your thoughts without constantly stopping to search for every perfect word. Confidence is not something that appears before action. Confidence is created by action. Every time you speak despite feeling nervous, you prove to yourself that fear does not control you. Every mistake teaches your brain something that no textbook ever could. Every conversation becomes another step toward fluency. Little by little, the hesitation becomes shorter. The pauses become fewer. The sentences become smoother. The words begin arriving naturally because your brain learns through use instead of memorization. One day you realize that you are no longer translating every sentence. You are simply speaking because your mind has finally accepted English as a language to use instead of a subject to study. Every person who speaks English fluently today has one thing in common. They did not become fluent because they knew more grammar than everyone else. They became fluent because they practiced speaking more than everyone else. This is the truth that many learners ignore. They believe fluency is hidden inside another textbook, another vocabulary list, or another online course. But fluency has never lived inside books. Fluency lives in your mouth, your ears, your confidence, and your willingness to speak even when your sentences are not perfect. The moment you begin speaking every day, you stop being a passive learner and become an active communicator. That small shift changes everything. Think about how a child learns to speak. A child does not wait until every sentence is grammatically correct. A child speaks with mistakes, gets corrected naturally, and tries again. Nobody laughs at a child for saying something incorrectly because everyone understands that speaking comes before perfection. Somewhere along the journey of learning English as adults, we forget this simple truth. We become so afraid of making mistakes that we choose silence instead. We convince ourselves that we need to study for another month before speaking, then another month, and then another year. Unfortunately, confidence does not arrive through waiting. Confidence is built through action. Imagine a musician who spends years reading music theory but never touches an instrument. Imagine a football player who watches every match but never steps onto the field. Imagine someone reading books about driving without ever sitting behind the steering wheel. No matter how much knowledge they collect, they cannot develop the skill until they practice it. Speaking English works exactly the same way. Your mouth needs training just as much as your mind. Every sentence you speak strengthens your ability to think faster, respond naturally, and express yourself with less hesitation. Many learners think they need one uninterrupted hour every day to practice English. That belief often becomes an excuse because life gets busy. The truth is that even 10 or 15 minutes of focused speaking every day can create remarkable improvement over time. Speak while making breakfast. Describe your room in English. Talk to yourself while walking. Explain your plans for the day out loud. Retell the story of a movie you watched. These small moments may seem ordinary, but together they build extraordinary fluency. Language grows through repetition, not intensity. There will be days when your sentences feel awkward. You will search for words. You will pause. Sometimes you will use the wrong tense or pronounce a word incorrectly. None of these moments are signs of failure. They are signs that learning is happening. Every mistake teaches your brain something valuable. Every correction becomes another step toward fluency. If you avoid mistakes, you also avoid improvement. The people who improve the fastest are usually the ones who are willing to sound imperfect today so they can become confident tomorrow. Another important habit is speaking before your brain has enough time to translate everything into your native language. At first, this feels uncomfortable because your mind wants to build every sentence perfectly before you say it. Resist that habit. Use simple words. If you do not know a difficult word, explain the idea using easier words. Real communication is not about using impressive vocabulary. It is about making yourself understood. Native speakers do this all the time. They simplify their language depending on who they are talking to. Simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is clarity. Do not compare your beginning with someone else's success. Social media often shows people speaking fluent English with confidence, but it rarely shows the years of struggle behind that confidence. Every fluent speaker once forgot basic words. Every confident communicator once felt nervous before speaking. The only difference is that they continued practicing while others continued waiting. Your progress will always be unique because your journey is unique. Create an environment where English becomes part of your daily life instead of a separate school subject. Speak about your hobbies in English. Think about your goals in English. Read simple articles aloud. Listen to short conversations and repeat them with the same rhythm and emotion. Record your voice and listen to it without judging yourself. Instead of asking, "Was I perfect?" ask, "Was I better than yesterday?" That single question keeps your attention on growth instead of fear. Remember that language is meant to connect people, not impress them. Most conversations in the real world are not filled with complicated grammar or advanced vocabulary. They are built on simple ideas expressed with confidence. Someone who can clearly communicate basic thoughts is often more successful than someone who knows thousands of words but is too afraid to speak. Speaking every day trains not only your language but also your courage. Every conversation teaches you to trust yourself a little more. Every sentence reminds you that fluency is not a destination you suddenly reach one morning. It is a habit you build one conversation, one mistake, one lesson, and one brave attempt at a time until speaking English becomes as natural as sharing your own thoughts. Most people treat English like a subject that belongs inside a classroom. They open a book, study a lesson, complete an exercise, close the book, and believe they have finished learning for the day. The next day, they repeat the same cycle. Week after week, month after month, even year after year. English remains something they study instead of something they live. That is the biggest reason why so many learners know the rules but cannot speak naturally. Language is not built during the hour you study it. It is built during the many moments you choose to use it. If you want English to become part of your life, then it must become part of your daily routine. Just as you brush your teeth every morning without reminding yourself, English should become a habit that happens naturally. Habits do not require motivation every day. They require consistency. When speaking English becomes as normal as checking your phone, making tea, or greeting a friend, your improvement becomes automatic. Imagine waking up every morning and saying simple English sentences before you even leave your bed. You can say, "Good morning. Today is going to be a productive day. I feel energetic. I have many things to accomplish." These may seem like small sentences, but they train your brain to think in English from the very beginning of the day. Instead of waiting for an English class to begin, you begin creating your own English environment. As you move through your day, continue using English for ordinary situations. Describe what you are doing. If you are making breakfast, say, "I am making tea. I am cutting bread. The water is boiling." If you are walking outside, describe the weather, the people, the buildings, and everything you notice around you. You do not need an audience. Your own voice is enough. Every sentence you speak strengthens your confidence and improves your fluency. Many learners believe they need long study sessions to improve. In reality, 5 minutes of active speaking several times a day can be more valuable than 2 hours of passive studying. Speaking activates your memory, improves pronunciation, builds sentence formation, and teaches your brain to respond quickly. Every short conversation with yourself becomes another step toward fluency. One powerful habit is to replace your inner language with English. Throughout the day, your mind is constantly talking. You make plans, solve problems, remember tasks, and react to situations. Most people do this in their native language without realizing it. Start changing that habit little by little. Think about your schedule in English. Plan your evening in English. Describe your emotions in English. Even if your sentences are simple, they are creating new pathways in your brain. Over time, English begins to appear naturally instead of requiring translation. Another daily habit is reading small amounts of English every day. You do not need difficult novels or advanced textbooks. Read short articles, simple stories, motivational quotes, or news written in easy English. Read them aloud instead of silently. Your eyes recognize sentence patterns, your ears hear correct pronunciation, and your mouth practices speaking at the same time. This combination makes learning faster and more effective. Listening should also become part of your routine. Listen while walking, exercising, cooking, or traveling. Choose English content that matches your level so you understand most of what you hear. Do not worry about understanding every single word. Focus on understanding the overall message. Your ears gradually become familiar with pronunciation, rhythm, and natural expressions. The more your brain hears English, the less strange it feels. Do not wait until you know every grammar rule before you speak. Children do not master grammar before they begin talking. They learn by using the language every single day. They make mistakes, receive corrections, and improve naturally. Adults often reverse this process. They try to become perfect before speaking, and as a result, they never develop confidence. Speaking first and improving later is far more effective than waiting for perfection. Keep a small notebook or use your phone to record new words you actually need in daily life. Instead of memorizing 50 random vocabulary words, learn 10 words that relate to your routine. If you use them repeatedly in conversations with yourself, they become part of your active vocabulary instead of remaining forgotten inside a notebook. Make speaking unavoidable. Label objects in your room with English names. Change your phone language to English. Write your shopping list in English. Keep a daily journal in English. Record short voice messages describing your day. Every one of these habits increases your exposure without requiring extra study time. You are simply transforming ordinary moments into learning opportunities. Do not measure your progress by how many grammar books you finish. Measure it by how many times you choose English during the day. Count the conversations you have with yourself, the thoughts you create in English, the pages you read, the minutes you listen, and the courage you show when you speak despite making mistakes. Fluency is not the result of one extraordinary effort. It is the result of hundreds of ordinary habits repeated consistently until English stops feeling like a foreign language and starts becoming a natural part of the way you think, communicate, and express yourself every single day. So today, I invite you to make a powerful decision. Stop being a student who only studies English. Become a speaker who uses English every single day. Because your voice will never grow in silence, and your dreams will never be translated into reality until you dare to speak them.